The 3 keys to trust. You've heard know, like, trust. Now I'm going to tell you why it's wrong. My name is Lucas Root. I'm the co-founder of The Ecstatic Way and the host of the Elements of Community podcast. We're going to talk about the 3 keys of trust. Actually, we're going to sort of rebuild the idea of know, like, trust. We're actually going to come at it from a little bit of a different angle. The first one is know, of course. The second one is like, but the third one is not actually trust. There's actually a different piece in there in the formula that builds trust. You're going to have to stick around to the end to be able to hear the rest of this. So the first one is know. It's actually known, and the second part that you probably haven't heard is knowing. It's the piece that everybody always forgets. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about both pieces of this. Being known is people understanding who you are. They're understanding what they're signed up for when they're having a conversation with you, whether it's a conversation at a distance through social media or a conversation with a higher degree of intimacy, maybe a Zoom call. It's a really important part. Then the other half of that, in order for you to be able to build trust, is actually knowing. You need to understand what it is that the person is interested in having a conversation with you about. And trust me when I tell you, they're not calling you to hear about you. They're calling you to hear about the problem that they have, the pain that they have, and the better that you know that, the faster you're able to build into this equation that results in trust. So that's known, knowing yourself, being known, and knowing the problem, knowing the person that you're speaking to and being able to speak into that conversation that they're looking to have. Inside the idea of known, let's talk about like sort of the classical example, the guru model of coaching. What we've been able to do for more than a decade at this point is put out content that sort of facilitates that conversation inside the head of the prospect, which is amazing. It's been a really powerful tool, but your consumers are getting better and better at understanding that the conversation inside their head is not actually the conversation that you're having with them. And they're stepping outside of that model, the model where you can facilitate the conversation just inside their head and they decide they know you well enough, they know that you know them well enough that they can buy. They're looking for a level of intimacy that's deeper than just that. They don't want to see your posts anymore. Your posts are just drawing them into the conversation, not facilitating it. What they need to have now is the actual conversation. They need to know that you don't just understand their problem, you understand the person on the other side of the problem, and you're able to connect the person and the problem in a 3-way conversation. So here's what that means to you. I could stand leaning against a Ferrari that's not mine in front of a mansion that's not mine in order for me to get a picture that makes me look amazing. And you look at that picture and you're like, oh, I want that. Don't blame you. I want it too. That's why I rented the Ferrari and stood in front of somebody else's mansion. That is so not authentic, and everybody's so used to seeing that we've moved beyond it. If you want to have conversations that are inauthentic using content that is actually commodity content, then you're going to be just like everybody else. The people that you're trying to serve with your message, with your purpose, they want a service provider, and they're going to choose someone that's connecting with them deeply. We have a video about content as commodity. It's absolute fire. We're going to link it in the comments. So that's known. Let's talk about like. If you hadn't guessed already, the 2 pieces are liked, so being liked, and liking. Ironically, as I'm talking about this conversation that you're having with your prospect, you need to be liked by them. You need to also find a way to like them. You have to go deeper than just pushing content. You have to go deeper in your level of intimacy. Connect with that person directly. Here's an example of what that might look like. I run my own podcast. I invited somebody to have a conversation with me about being a guest. She was going to be the perfect guest for my podcast. She had just finished her doctorate in community. Gonna know everything I want to talk about. The exact kind of geek that I can really connect with. We get on the phone. Typically my connection calls with somebody like her are an hour long or longer because we go super deep into talking about different pieces of community. I love these conversations. And that's not even the recorded one. That's just like, do we have chemistry? This conversation was 17 minutes long and it ended with, let's keep in touch. Clearly there was a lack of liking. And this is super easy. Like inviting somebody who's an expert in a field that I have a podcast about to come share my stage, that should have been an automatic yes. But because we didn't have that like in place, there was no path forward. And the same is going to be true for you. You need to be liked by the person you're trying to serve, because there are coaches out there that can do exactly the same thing as you, or at least close enough that if they're liked, they're the one that's going to win the business. And you need to like your prospect. You need to like them enough to really listen to them, to make sure that the service that you're providing is the right service for them, and they're gonna know the difference. So that's liked and liking. We're actually building a formula, like I said at the beginning. There's know, being known and knowing, like, being liked and liking, and then this third piece, and you need all three pieces to build into trust, and this third piece is test. Here's how it works. In order for you to be able to build trust that your clients are going to be interested in buying, they need to be able to test you. You need to make it actually easy for them to test you. Most obvious version of that is free samples, giving away huge amounts of food at Costco. But it's not just cheap products that are being tested. Have you ever noticed that your car dealership will actually let you take your car overnight home, park it in your garage, feel what it feels like to have the car? It's not a cheap product, to have the car for a day or 2 days or sometimes even a week. And then you can make the buying decision, bring it back if you don't want it. It's not because they're required to, because there's lemon law. It's because that's actually a really good practice, building the trust in that product. I trust it so much that if you take it home, you're not going to want to bring it back. So find different ways for you to build trust with your potential clients, with your customers, with your audience like that. Here's what it's not. It's not social proof. Social proof is trying to demonstrate that testing has been done. But just like I've been saying throughout this entire video, people are becoming more savvy. Your audience is more savvy. They know better. They know that you might have done a good job a year ago and gotten social proof from that good job a year ago, and then cut corners between then and now. How many times have you decided that you don't want to buy a brand anymore? It used to be good, and then they changed something. And your clients, your customers, your audience know that that's what's happening in some cases with some people on social proof. I got a whole bunch of really good reviews, and then I changed my product. Here's how that looks for you. It's not just getting rid of social proof. Rather, this is the culmination of the conversation you and I have been having. You need to give your clients an opportunity to know you, not just through the conversation they have, but through the product, the service that you're offering. You need to give them an opportunity to decide that they really like you by experiencing you. This is what SaaS models are built around. 7 days free trial. I get to actually experience the relationship I'm going to have with you as a service provider for 7 days. And then I get to decide, how are you facilitating them knowing you, them liking you? And now, just like the rest of this, there's two sides to testing too. Because you're experiencing them in that same 7-day free trial, you get to decide if they're actually your ideal customer. You get to decide if you know them well enough to be able to serve them, if you know their product or their problem well enough to be able to serve them. You get to decide if you like them well enough to be able to continue to serve them when the going gets hard, because let's be honest, most relationships get hard at some point, and you need to be able to like someone to get through that. So that's the two sides of testing. The formula together builds the trust, and it builds the opportunity for the buy. Now that you know how to build trust, watch the video on how to build 8-figure communities and subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this one.